Hey folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Monday, June 30th. It may not be morning anymore when you are getting this podcast, but some things had to be taken care of as the Pittsburgh Steelers made a blockbuster trade. Honestly, one of the biggest trades in team history on Monday morning, sending All-Pro safety Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Miami Dolphins for All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey, Pro Bowl tight end Jonnu Smith, and a swap of 2027 third-day draft picks. There had been lots of talk between the Steelers and the Dolphins over the last few weeks. I think that talk actually started with the Steelers probably trying to inquire about the availability of seemingly permanently peeved Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Certainly Jonnu Smith, who was in the middle of a contract negotiation with the Dolphins, made sense as an alternative pass catcher. Ramsey can help the Steelers with their lack of quality at slot cornerback and depth in the secondary. But I don't think anybody saw Minkah Fitzpatrick coming as the trade going the other direction, with the Steelers selling low on an all-pro who had been coming off back-to-back seasons on the downhill, a lack of splash plays being the biggest noticeable thing that had reduced in Fitzpatrick's play, but also a Steelers secondary that seemed to have a lot of miscommunications last season. And as the usual center field safety, Fitzpatrick owned some responsibility for that. This is an interesting trade because I think it's abundantly clear that the Pittsburgh Steelers got better. Ramsey and Fitzpatrick are roughly equal players, veteran, experienced defensive backs who had previously been one of the best in the league at their position. They no longer are that, but are still very good, very capable starters. The Steelers also add an all-pro tight end in Jonnu Smith. And considering their lack of pass-catching weapons, the fact that Smith is a tight end and not a wide receiver is a bit of a hindrance, but not a massive one. In talking about upgrading the Steelers' pass-catching options, he will be a significant one. So the Steelers very clearly got better. But like so many of Omar Khan's moves over the last couple of years, it comes with a but, right? And how will the pieces fit together in the secondary is not immediately clear. Who will play free safety? Is it Juan Thornhill? Is someone like Ramsey or Darius Slay going to try to move to free safety? If you make this trade and you're starting Beanie Bishop still because you move Ramsey to safety, does that really make the Steelers better in the secondary? Probably not. I mean, Ramsey less experience as a safety, Slay less experience as a safety. Even if you think Ramsey at corner is better than Fitzpatrick at safety, where do you put them all? Do you move Slay at 34 years old into a more physical position in the slot? I kind of doubt it. Joey Porter, obviously not built to be a slot receiver or a slot corner. So I think that part of it requires a good amount of working through in terms of what that looks like. And of course, I don't think trading for Gabe Davis is going to stop the I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Trading for Jonnu Smith is going to stop the Steelers' pursuit of a wide receiver too. Jeremy Fowler mentioned right after the trade, Gabe Davis remains a possibility, although he's not expected to sign until later in the offseason. I think they're still going to try for a second wide receiver. I just think Jonnu Smith helps their pass-catching group alongside Pat Freiermuth. Darnell Washington gives them three deep, really good tight ends. And you don't have even more than one wide receiver. You feel really good about Calvin Austin. I think is a good piece, but probably not a starting outside wide receiver. But it does give them options now to play a lot of 12 personnel, probably play a little 13 personnel. I think it makes a lot of sense in acquiring Jonnu Smith, and even his contract extension, which he was given 1 year at $12 million, not exactly going to break the bank for a quality tight end. Ramsey, he is older. Has declined a little bit. Smith coming off one of his best seasons with the Dolphins last season, but the Ramsey deal comes with very little in terms of risk up front. Now, it's important to note the Steelers are going to redo his contract as well, give him a added salary in 2025, but the contract that came from the Dolphins had no guarantees beyond this year. So I think the Steelers got better. But they certainly have created a weakness at safety that it is not obvious how they're going to fill. I guess we should talk about Juan Thornhill, who's been a starting safety for the Browns the last few years, but has really struggled to stay healthy. He certainly is a starting caliber player, nowhere near as good as Fitzpatrick. Could be a good starter. But again, if you're starting Juan Thornhill and putting Ramsey in the slot or Slay in the slot, that probably lessens the impact of acquiring Ramsey. But I don't know where you put him because you got 3 good outside corners and you're only going to play 2. I think it's an interesting puzzle to piece together in the secondary. I'm not quite sure right now how things are going to shake out. We probably won't know until the Steelers get to training camp and try some things. This trade coming when it did, very inconvenient from the Steelers standpoint, and that it would have been really nice if you're talking about moving players around in the secondary to have those guys at minicamp, and they didn't get that opportunity. So it'll be a really important training camp in the secondary to see how these guys are going to shake out. Jonnu Smith, obviously very familiar with Arthur Smith, having played with him in Atlanta. That should be a pretty natural addition to the tight end room. I think they were really counting on Donald Parham to be a big part of that group in terms of pass catching. And ever since he was lost for the season with that Achilles injury back in OTAs, I think the Steelers have been interested in adding some kind of tight end, and Smith is probably the best one that was available to them. So a big upgrade in the tight end room and an obvious one there. The picks end up being pretty irrelevant. The Steelers sent a 2027 fifth to Miami, get back a 2027 seventh. They had 2 fifth-rounders in 2027, having the Cowboys as part of the George Pickens trade. So they will go 5th, 7th, 7th instead of 5th, 6th, 7th when you take the 2 trades into account in 2027. Fairly irrelevant stuff there. Huge news at the end of June here for the Steelers. And I think obviously the team got better, but again, it's going to be a situation that is going to be something they're going to have to work through in that secondary to see how these new pieces fit together. That's all I got for this morning. Steelers Afternoon Drive coming up just after 6 right here on the YouTube channel or on any audio platform. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss an episode of me and Smitty coming up later. We're supposed to have a special guest, but I'm not sure we're going to now because of this news. I don't know. We'll stay tuned and we'll let you know that. Till then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching and enjoy.